The children came to the door every year, without fail. Each year, they would knock on every door down the same street where they lived and played for years. The curious thing was that all the other groups of trick or treating children came away with their buckets laden with sweets, chocolate, and baked goods synonymous with the time of year, but when these children knocked, it was as if the residents who opened the doors didn't even see them. They would just look ahead, as if they really couldn't see the three youngsters at all. They would say, "Hello, hello, hello, who's there? Who is it?" The children merely thought it was a trick or treat prank on them. The children could remember a time when they, like the rest of the young people, also received treats from the street's inhabitants, although the memory of it felt like a distant recollection, like that of a long-forgotten dream, and even when they spoke about it amongst themselves, none of them could pinpoint the times between the 31st October. They followed the same pattern every year, but always wondered why Maggie wasn't there with them. She was the ringleader to every escapade and adventure they undertook and went on, and for her not to be there on their favorite night of the year, was somewhat unfathomable to the other three children, who, however hard they tried to remember, could not seem to recall the last time the four of them had been together. Maggie had come to dread Halloween. The trick, or treaters, were not an issue. The little ones looked sweet in the little pumpkin and scarecrow costumes, and the older children's costumes and makeup were always so artistic and creative. She really enjoyed the hustle and bustle of the day. It reminded her of good times long ago when her and her friends, Alastair, Janet, and Owen, used to be as excited as these youngsters were to go from door to door to door to doctor chanting trick or treat. It was a usual average Halloween evening in 1978 on the way to Maggie's home. When the accident happened, a drunk driver claimed he didn't see the two siblings and their neighbor due to it being dark, but he still got 5 years for his crime, a sentence considered by most people at the time woefully short. It hit Maggie hard. The loneliness and grief that followed that night were soul-destroying and bitter. Maggie considered it was these dark emotions that may have caused the annual visits. You can never be sure of exactly what the human psyche is capable of, but she had later come to the conclusion that the visits would have happened anyway. Unfinished business. Maggie had come to dread Halloween because every year, at the same time, there would be the familiar knocks on the front door. The children talked amongst themselves, excited at the prospect of receiving some tasty snacks, although, as Janet pointed out, much to the annoyance of her older brother Alastair, "We better hurry up and get some treats soon. We ain't got anything yet." They came to the last house on the street. It felt to Owen like déjà vu, as if they'd been here many times before, but that was understandable, he supposed. But the feeling was strong and creepy. Alastair knocked 3 times on the door. Maggie took a very deep breath, picked up the basket of treats, and opened the door. The children stood there just as they had so many years before, regular-looking kids in Halloween costumes. A devil, a witch, and a doctor who's Cyberman. Maggie couldn't help but give a little smile. Owen was always a doctor who nerd. Trick or treat, the children chanted in unison. Maggie cleared her throat. "Wow! Great costumes, kids! Very creepy." The children smiled and laughed happily. relieved and pleased that someone actually acknowledged all their hard work. "We made them ourselves," Janet said exuberantly. "Yes, I know. I was there when you, Maggie's sentence trailed off. "Here you go, take this. You can take the whole thing. It's getting late now. I think you shall be the last for tonight." She handed the basket to the devil, and he took it gratefully. "Thanks, Mrs. That's great," Maggie smiled and said. "You're welcome. See you next year, Alastair." She then shut the door hurriedly, hiding the tears running down her face. "How did she know your name, Ali?" Janet asked her brother quizzically. "We live on the same street, stupid. She probably heard someone saying my name at some point," Alastair replied playfully, shoving his little sister and then putting his arm around her shoulder. "Oh, yeah, I suppose. Come on, maybe we will meet Maggie on the way back. I wonder where she could have got to?" Blood oozing from a body, the anguished cries of someone in pain, a relentless zombie chasing and ultimately consuming a person, a psychopathic serial killer claiming thousands of lives. The cacophony of bones cracking and desperate pleas for help, these are the elements that invigorate my day. Exclusively focused on directing horror films, I have a penchant for extreme gore and gothic horror, making it my preferred genre. Throughout my career, I've crafted over 800 films, many of which have garnered critical acclaim. However, none have managed to secure a spot at the Oscars, an achievement I now fervently pursue. My journey began with Jenny, the ultimate granny, my 40th film, followed by Grandma at My Door, which I both wrote and directed. My films are renowned for their shockingly authentic portrayal of horror, so much so that some viewers have experienced heart attacks while immersed in my creations. My destiny as a director was sealed at the tender age of 14, despite my parents' resistance and their alternate plans for me. Driven by an unshakable determination, I decided to embrace my true calling. By age 17, my passion for directing had intensified, leading me to make an unusual pact with Jacob Uncle, a recluse living in the forest. Offering him my right index finger, I gained the means to shoot my first genuine horror film, The Annoying Parents, featuring myself and my parents. This film skyrocketed in popularity, thanks to Uncle Jacob's endorsement, particularly his fascination with the heads of my parents that I had presented to him. In return, he bestowed upon me a mysterious black potion. As my most loyal critic, Uncle Jacob consistently applauds my work, making him quite dear to me. Empowered by the black potion, I possess the extraordinary strength to twist and contort a person's body parts without any mechanical assistance. While my horror films may appear to be fictional on screen, they actually capture real-life occurrences, meticulously documented. As for your inquiry, would you be interested in participating in my next venture, titled The Scary Story Writers and Readers? It promises to be an immersive and chilling experience. My family holds these lush banquets, but one night a year is a special dinner. One I've never invited to until now. It's very stuffy. A bunch of family and important people dressed in decadence. Discussions are just so dry. This was highly uneventful so far. That didn't last for very long till the servants rolled out a projector. The excitement in the room could not be contained, laughter and happy chatter all abuzz. "I hope it's as good as last time," commented Mother, her eyes glittering with sort of mischief. "It will be even better," promised Father. For my part, I stayed silent, focusing on this scene. It was all very new. These were officials here, a priest, a townfolk, an uncommon sight in these walls. The movie begins, and the doors of the dining room are shut and locked. Why are they locked? What is this film? Before I could question, Mother gave me a look of delight. "Just watch, my dear." "I don't want to see this. We did as promised." "Let me go," cried the townsfolk. The guards held him in place as the picture played. It was our kitchen with our chef, cooking ribs, some sort of mysterious-looking pork. "No, I don't want to see this." Vegetables were shimmied with kidney meat. The man fainted and was taken away swiftly. Everyone in the room mocked him and chortled at his misery. I was paralyzed in my chair trying to put it all together. Why did the man lose his mind? It was just cooking, wasn't it? "Now that we've had tonight's entertainment, we can eat," my father said joyously. The servants began to plate tables with all sorts of dishes, just like on the video. We started with the soup. She wanted to be a famous cook. What delicious irony. "No, what?" Curiously, I looked through the soup, and underneath the leeks and potatoes was a human's thumb. I just started to scream as they all giggled demonically. This was the dinner party from hell. After a decade of rigorous research, a project that had recently claimed to achieve an extraordinary feat, making the first immortal human, known as the Demise of Death, was ultimately terminated. Having successfully attained the milestone of rendering at least one individual immortal, the original plan dictated that this person would serve as the catalyst to bestow immortality upon others. While society, especially the scientific community, held high hopes for the immortal prototype to revolutionize humanity, reality dashed their optimistic expectations. The immortal prototype, unfortunately, led to the decimation of nearly half the Earth's population in just a single month. How did this unfold so swiftly, you may wonder? The prototype possessed the uncanny ability to shed cells from which countless replicas could emerge, leading to the death of billions. A meager handful of survivors remained, many of whom sought refuge in bunkers. However, despite their efforts, the population of the prototype continued to multiply, rapidly approaching the Earth's original populace. Fortuitously, a man and a woman who had been dispatched to Mars were urged by the remaining survivors on Earth to reproduce. As the grip of the prototype tightened on Earth, the red planet offered the sole glimmer of hope. In the wake of humanity's near extinction, the inhabitants of Mars welcomed the birth of a singular, naturally conceived child. "The demise of death is actually a new life," said the mother.